This is the new flight controller, which is the SPRacingF3Mini with an SD card slot for black box logging. It's got 3 UART ports, and they are actually dedicated so it doesn't affect the USB. It also comes with all the headers that you need, and you also get your LEDs which go on to the back there for the transponder. So if you've got anything running with iLap, it'll actually pick it up. Now all these, I mean, it's not, as it stands, it doesn't look very mini, but all these tags, the transponder and everything else, they will break off to leave just that small footprint there. Now I'm not going to be breaking, I might break the transponder tab off, but because I'll never need that. I don't go fast enough to race. But that actually fits perfectly on there. Now the only thing I've noticed is these headers are going to obscure the USB port, so I'm going to have to move, not move them, I'm going to have to, I think, solder directly to the board, and that'll cut down on, I'll take those headers off. So I'm going to fit that on. Now the only thing I had a problem with was flashing the firmware, because these things, they don't work the same as the nays. They boot into what's called DFU mode, which is not the same as the nays. I had a problem installing the driver for it to get it to work in clean flight, but Boris has just released a beta flight firmware for him, so I thought I'd try it. But I'll try and show you how to install firmware on these things now. So when you first connect it, if you've got Auto Connect selected in clean flight, it'll auto connect. Now I've got a lot of electromagnetic interference in here, so the mag's not going to be accurate at all, as you can see. So the first thing you do is select disconnect, go onto firmware flasher, load firmware local, and then I've got the beta flight, the latest version of SPRacingF3Mini Racing. You click on flash firmware and you'll notice that the light goes out. So then what you have to do is you open this Zadig, whatever you pronounce it, you go onto options, list all devices, and then you have to select the STM32 bootloader and make sure that it's got WinUSB driver selected there. Click on replace driver, and then that's selected successfully. Now what that actually does is it installs the DFU driver, which clean flight now needs, because it's basically in bootloader. So you close that, you can close that, and then you can reboot your PC. So when you've rebooted your PC, you plug it in as normal. Doesn't auto connect it. Click on connect, disconnect it, go back to firmware flasher, load firmware local, select the same one again, flash firmware, and it should, on the top right here, go into DFU mode. And as you can see now, it's happily flashing it, and it's done it. And you can select connect, and there we go. So if I go onto the CLI and type version, we've now got Betaflight installed. I've decided I'm going to mount the board like that so as I can get the USB plug, get access to that and also the micro SD card underneath just about. I do need access to these so as I can flash the ESCs if it need be, or configure them. Now what I'm using is, I've got these, basically they're rubber O-rings, I suppose. Yeah. So I've got one on the top there, then I've got the board, and then I've got one on the bottom, and that allows it just to flex very slightly. It should take out a lot of the micro vibrations. So yeah, I'm going to mount that there. Just a word of warning, if you're thinking of getting one of these connectors here, they are actually JST-SH connectors. I haven't got anything whatsoever that does JST-SH. I've got none of the connectors, nothing. So I'm going to have to take those off, and I'm going to have to solder the finest pitch wire I've got onto those. Now, unless you're really good with soldering, you want to get some of those in before you actually buy this board. When you're planning on putting your headers and everything else on here, if you read the manual, I think the manual, the board is actually, is it that way? Let's just have a look to be certain. The board in the manual is placed that way, and it says to use with SPRA's pins 3, 4 and 5 on UART1. Now UART1 is this row down here. So you do 1, 2, pin 3, pin 4 and pin 5. So if you have a look at those three at the bottom, on this side, 3, 4 and 5, which is 5 volt ground and 5 volt. So the manual is actually wrong. The manual's wrong in a load of places actually, and the ones that you actually need is that one and that one. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. So make sure you look at the underside of the board before you actually solder anything on and connect it up, because that would end up in smoke. I'll give in. I've just spent 6 hours trying to get GPS, OSD, which I don't know, there it is, OSD and SPRA's working, and it really doesn't want to know. It seems like UART2, it doesn't want to activate anything. So I don't know if I've got a faulty one, but I mean, it is the one that I soldered. But I've checked absolutely everything, and the pins, everything's okay. So until something's sorted, I'm going to have to use an A's, which I could have done last weekend. I'm a bit pissed off about it, but you know. Hey ho, such is life. My problems continue. Because the nays won't handle SPRA's, which is serial, so you have to dedicate one UART for it. Because it won't handle serial, and it won't handle OSD, and it won't handle GPS at the same time, I can only have SPRA's or one of the other. So I may as well go back to the F3. So I've now mounted that there, the receiver's underneath there, so it's all nice and clean. The Minimo SD, when I can find it, the Minimo SD is gone, someone's stolen it. The Minimo SD is going to go somewhere there. And then I think I'm going to move the programming port and put it on along the side here, just having it jutting out, put some extension cable on it or something, and then just wire it up and well, fingers crossed. This has just turned into a nightmare. I've got the Minimo SD on, as you can see. and I've fed the wires through, and I've put a header port there for, when I can find it, for the FTDI to go on, so I can program that and not bother about it. I've just soaked it in a bit of epoxy just to keep it all in place. So the next thing I'm going to do is wire the Minim OSD to this thing and then test it, and then I'm going to put my camera on. Well, amongst all this mess there is a quad somewhere. So I've got everything wired up. The motors connect on these pins here, and when that's actually on there, when it goes on there, you can see that that thing is going to be held in by the top plate, so there's no way that can come out. The only thing is, if I connect that, I can't get to my USB port, but thinking about it, I've made that by design. It's just a safety precaution, I suppose. The only time I'd need that plugged in, when I've got the flight controller plugged in, is when I calibrate the ESCs. But I can always take this off, it's not a problem. Anyway, I've also got a plug here, which the VTX and everything else plugs into, like that, which is epoxied down so it don't move. I've also epoxied the caps into place, stop them moving. I've left them there, I don't need them, but you know, what can you do? And then that fits on there. Oh, you dickhead. You dickhead. Alright. That doesn't fit on there. Oh shit. I need to raise that up. What a dickhead. Back to the drawing board. I've had to make a custom patch lead for it, like that. Put the cable in along there. Now, one thing to bear in mind, there is a mounting post that goes here which holds this top plate on. Now, whenever possible, I always put the post right next to the connector. These things, I have had them come off in flight before, so it's just something to bear in mind. So whenever you can put some reinforcement behind it like that, use it. So that's done now. And that now fits on there somehow. So that'll now fit on there, and it's nice and low profile. And that thing can plug in directly through that. Now, the other good thing about having this connector here is so as I can plug it into my monitor. I forgot one vital piece, which was the beeper, buzzer, whatever you want to call it. I don't know if you've seen my videos, my previous video on this, about this interference and with a mag. Because this thing's got a mag, you can't, as far as I know, you can't disable it, but I don't care anyway. That will interfere with that. But it's all working. So I'm going to put the top plate on, and then it's done. Always happens to me. I've just updated my firmware on my Taranis. I know what's going to happen.
Throttle warning.
Oh, here we go. Oh, I've lost all my models. Oh, today's tip. Now, as I've just shown you, this thing reset to default, so I don't know why. It wiped the EEPROM, basically. So I've lost all my models. But every time I switch on,
throttle warning.
It says throttle warning. Now, by accident, fail safe for now. Now, how to get rid of that? Hold the menu button, go up one, and you see on the left there it says mode 1. So by default it looks like it's set to mode 1. Mode 2. Now I know it's going to moan about failsafe because I haven't set that up, but so if you get that error, you know how to fix it now. It only took me about 2 hours. Well, I've finally finished it with having problems with the flight controller, then having problems with my radio, then having problems with the VTX where it was mounted up the front, or in the middle, which was catching on the flight controller. It's now done. Now the weight, I'll take the battery off. The weight of it, I'll get me other one. As a comparison, because these are virtually the same. So we'll weigh this one first on my magic scales. I don't know how accurate these are. So I don't know if you can see that, but that's 455 grams. And this one, I honestly haven't weighed this yet, but this was supposed to be, I'll take that off because it wasn't on the other one. This was supposed to be the ultimate weight saving exercise. Please don't be any more. 430. So I've saved 25 grams. You're taking the piss. 430. $4.55. How's that possible? They've got exactly the same, but I haven't got all those ESCs in there. I know this one's got an extra carbon plate because I didn't put one on there. Maybe it's that. Oh. You can see there the footprint is exactly the same. So anyway, this was supposed to be the rocket ship. it's just, oh, f*** off. Oh, I'm pissed off. I've had enough. Oh, I've left a piece of tape on the beeper. Let's wait now. 4:30. Why? I've decided I'm going to mount the flight controller like that. So I've got clear access to the USB port, and I can also put the thing in. I've decided I'm going to mount the board like this so as I can get the USB